Welcome to the Stronger Leader podcast, home of the hashtag Stronger movement, where we explore the fascinating tapestry of human experience. I'm your host, Tony Cardello. Each episode, we'll sit down with a remarkable guest to dive into their unique journeys, from successful business leaders to individuals who have faced the darkest of times and emerged stronger, even from some of the inspiring youth of this emerging generation. We'll also cover essential topics on marriage, leadership, as well as spiritual, physical, and mental health, all in hopes to provide you with the tools and motivation to navigate your own life's challenges. Whether you're here to learn, grow, or simply be inspired, there's something for everyone. So get comfy, settle in, and join us as we embark upon this journey together. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well. Turn on the notifications so you'll know whenever we drop new content. All right, let's get started. All right, here we go. Yeah. Welcome to the Stronger Leader podcast. It's your host, Tony Cardello. Here with my man, John Sorens. What's going on, John? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Doing awesome. So we have a good show here planned for you guys. I got some good questions for John. John's a real good guy, and he's bearing with me on my journey here.
Yeah.
All right.
Long for the ride.
So I don't know if we're going to use that intro or not, but I keep doing it. All right. So my man, John Sorens, man. Listen, John and I met, it's been maybe 7-8 years. Well, let's see.
I was thinking about that. It's been probably 11, 12 years.
Gosh, yeah. And, you know, and we'll get into it. I got some comments to even make about that. But, you know, lately, since I've started this Stronger Leader and been really bold with my faith, John's been huge supporter of it, and you know, always comments on our content and adds his narrative to it, and it's been really cool connecting with you on that level. And I think we more than see eye to eye on a lot of issues and a lot of things, you know, especially pertaining to our faith and just being good men. So we'll get into all that stuff. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, proud to do it.
So I got some questions for you. I got a line of questions. It'll be pretty basic stuff, and you know, everybody always wants the questions in advance to prepare. But I always say the questions I ask you should be the ones you've been preparing your whole life for. So that's the authenticity of this show, and so hopefully that's what we get. So why don't you start off? And you know, listen, on this is your platform to kind of say the things that you want to say, or don't say the things you don't want to say. And so any of that's good. And bear in mind, this is all recorded. So, you know, if we get too deep into a topic and you decide later you want to cut that out, we can, you know, and no, certainly, sometimes we can get talking amongst friends and maybe we reveal too much. But I think the more transparent you can be, the more authentic you can be, the more we'll connect with listeners. And I think that's the purpose of the show is, you know, at the end of the day, maybe we can help somebody in the situation where they're at and maybe get a different perspective in life. And that's kind of our mission, right? To help men become better men and, you know, obviously empower the women in our lives to hold us stinking men accountable, right?
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
So why don't we start off with, you know, your childhood and just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you came from and what brings us here today.
Sure. Well, in talking to you, you wanted me to mention being adopted. And so, you know, I was thinking about that, and it's really the first time I ever felt chosen because back in the 1970s, they didn't have the internet. And so my parents were literally like going through a catalog and going, that's the one.
I mean, literally, you were chosen.
I was chosen.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's such a great perspective.
And so I'd never really thought about it until like you were like, "Hey, let's mention adoption." And I know that's one of those things that you know some people struggle with fertility. Some people, it's just something that they want to do. They feel called to do. And so, being adopted, I got adopted. I think the process started about 16 months, and they're like, "That kid's cute. We want him." And then
you're pretty cute, kid.
Yeah. It's all been downhill since then. But, you know, I think I came over to the United States about 22 months. And so a lot of interest.
So where were you adopted from? What country?
From India.
Got it.
From India, from St. Catherine's Orphanage in India.
Excellent.
And so coming over, there was some interesting kind of nuances. they had also adopted my sister from the far off town of New Jersey, I guess state of New Jersey. So they went over and were able to bring her back from the hospital, and so she's younger than me, but has a lot of those traits of the older sibling.
Now, is this your biological sister?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
So
All right.
2 adopted, and then I do have a biological. Well, they have a biological sister or daughter, 8 years younger than me.
Got it.
So, just growing up in a suburban area of Philadelphia, kind of equal to like the Liberty, Kansas City distance. It was a good upbringing. Ironically, not ironically, I guess interestingly, it was a Jewish family that adopted me.
Whoa.
And so have a lot of like Old Testament history and knowledge from being raised in a Jewish home.
So you're talking about like they were traditionally not Christian converted. They were true Jewish.
Yes.
Wow. I did not know that. That's interesting.
And so part of that is there's, I would say, like different levels of how people, it's a lot like Christianity, right? So you've Christians who celebrate the big holidays, and that's where a lot of what we did was. And then we would go to synagogue sometimes. And so that's kind of where we were. And then just like in Christians, like we go to church every Sunday. So there's Jews that do that as well. They go every week. And so, and then you've got the Orthodox and, you've got the really conservative Christians. And so it kind of follows along very strong parallels. And so what happened was, I just grew up and my parents had me going to synagogue till I was 13. I had a bar mitzvah.
That's so cool. That's great.
It's kind of wild.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But then it was like, okay, in the Jewish tradition, when you're 13, you're a man. So you get to make that decision. And I decided to kind of walk away. It was a opportunity where I was a teenager and I felt like I could do this.
Yeah.
I can run this shit.
I mean, you were a man.
I was a man. Yeah. I was the man.
They said you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the man.
Yeah. Had a party and everything. And so probably from 13 until...
So let's pause on that
Yeah.
for one moment. So at 13 years old, you decided to walk away from the Jewish faith. Was there somebody plant a seed prior to? Well, I mean, obviously the Jews understand and know who Jesus was. They don't understand him as God, but as a prophet. And so you learned about Jesus. Was there any element of that really drew you to maybe a different truth, or did you walk away from a belief system or from like religion altogether at that point? Or is that when you converted to Christianity?
No, I walked away like completely. Like, I got this.
Got it.
I'm driving this bus. I know what I'm doing. I'm a man. I can make my own decisions.
So you believed in God, just wasn't necessary kind of a thing. Or were you kind of losing that belief too?
Kind of. There were some really hard things that happened. I lost a friend who was 13 in a bus accident. And it was really hard to understand why bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
She was a wonderful, person, and just that was a struggle. But then, it was just, as I said, it wasn't an every week kind of thing for me, and it wasn't something that I felt that I needed. I think another part that was difficult for me was it's hard to grow up being an Indian on the outside and have your faith be Jewish. Like, people don't see those as meshing.
Yeah, and what's really unique about that, what a lot of people don't really know and understand about the Jewish faith, it's also kind of a nationality as well. So not only do they identify, they identify their nationality by their faith, which is kind of a unique. And I know within the Jewish religion, there's other nationalities as well. But if you said you were a Jew, you typically were. That was your nationality, and that's also your belief, right? And that's the way I understand. Is that correct for the most part?
Kind of. So there's like Hebrew Jewish, like from Israel. But then when you think about American Jews, especially I would say on the East Coast, because I don't really know that many. I know a few here in the Midwest, but not nearly as many as, obviously growing up.
Right.
But they look like every other white person. Mm-hmm. And so
and a lot of don't.
Exactly. So it was like, here's, I mean, it's a terrible analogy, but just, the speck on, the overall white
Yeah, I get it.
synagogue,
Yeah.
and so
Right.
it was just, it was different. And, it was things I didn't want to answer, things I didn't want to deal with. And I didn't really see the purpose in it. And so, I was throwing my energy into other things, which was at that point probably just mostly working because I wanted to be as independent as I could. I wanted to have my own car. I wanted to have buy my own stuff. I wanted to go where I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do.
Did you ever journey down any dark trails like drugs and get not like just random partying, but I mean, did you ever get off into drugs like where it became frequent at a young age?
No,
No.
no. When I went to college, joined a fraternity, definitely partied a lot. Uh, definitely got into some wild scenes there, but nothing that really like overtook my life.
Got it. Okay.
But it was like you could see it, right? And so it's like now I'm a teacher, so we talk about paths a lot. The Bible talks about paths, and being on the outside fringe of some of those scenes, kind of like, but I was able to look forward and go, that might not be what I want, and so able to steer myself away from those situations.
That's great. I never knew. That's a very interesting twist to your story.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's go. Let's take from there. I'm curious then, and if it goes too far down the road of your Christianity, when that started, how early did that start, or when did your Christian faith start?
My Christian faith really didn't start until about 2000. So I was like 24.
Okay, got it.
And my wife, Laura, she was the one that kind of brought me along that path. And the way that started
I knew
was...
I liked her.
What's that?
I knew I liked her.
Oh, yeah, she's great. Well, it's a lot like you've said on your thing before where, we could be the head of the house, but we need that strong neck. I've used that like 100 times since I heard it. It's so good.
It's guidance.
Yeah. And so I needed that guidance. I was partying in South Carolina where I met her, and I like to say that I was looking for a party girl, and God brought me a Baptist from the Midwest.
That's great.
And so, God clearly knew what I needed more than I did. And
always does.
Yeah. And she invited me a bunch of times to go to church with her. And there were a couple of times that, I just hit snooze on the alarm or whatever and didn't go, but she didn't stop inviting me. And then when we kind of, we're speaking about, like this is something that's really important to her, I started to go. And then there was a twist where my job took me up to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And so I didn't really have anyone, to do things with on the weekends because I was managing a bunch of college kids. And so, you're not supposed to party with them because they're your employees.
Yeah,
and so
right.
I wasn't around anyone, and it was a very short-term placement. And so I started investigating churches, and I went to these small churches, and I remember calling her and being like, well, this is the third week in a row at a different church, heard the fire and brimstone speech. And, one was about tithing, how like the church is going to shut down because if you don't, support us. And I'm like, this is not what I'm looking for. And so she said, well, just keep trying different churches. And so I went it was First Baptist, I believe, of Myrtle Beach. And I walked in, and the back two rows had a bunch of homeless people in it. And I was like, this is my church. Because to me, a God that really loves people doesn't care what people it is. The homeless people, the people that are decked out nice in Under Armour, there are people in suits, things like that. And so when I went to this church, I called her back and I was like, hey, Laura, I think I like this church. I'm going to go again. And then, I missed a week. I forget why, but I missed a week. And then I went back. And every church is the same. You sit in the same section, whether may not be the same exact seat, but you're in the same section with the same people.
Pull that mic in a little closer to you.
And
You can pull it back to it. Yeah, there you go.
and
Perfect.
so
That's good.
there was a few people that were like, "Oh, we missed you. We were wondering where you were." And I was like, "Well, I've only been here like 3 other times. Like, how badly could they have missed me?" Right? And then so I did that a couple more times, and I finally filled out and if this is too much, we can, but I filled out that sheet, and then they came to my house rather than, and they were like, "Do you want to have this conversation?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I'm really ready for this big commitment."
Yeah.
And so what I liked about it was they left me the information. And so, I'm reading it and I'm like, this is something that I'm ready for.
That's cool.
But, there's different ways that people go about discipling to others. When I was at Lock Haven in Pennsylvania, I have this distinct memory, and I've seen it down at the plaza too. The guy on the milk crate just screaming that we're all going to hell. But that's what floats his boat, and he's convicted to do that. But it's not what I needed at that time, right? There's the people who, they fly signs or they hang signs out, and that's how they spread their message. And then there's people like I think you and I who work on the relationship, and you build that relationship, and then you have a cup of coffee, and then somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I'm having a hard time, and I noticed your life is not like this in this way. Why?" Well, I don't know why, but I believe in Christ, and these are the things that I do, and I tell them about.
I feel like leading, just leading your life by example and above board, and it causes people in those moments, to quit, like just the comparison, right? And I know we're not supposed to compare, but listen, if you're going to live a life that anybody's going to compare anything to, it should be one like Christ, right? And so I 100% agree with you. That's opened up so many doors for me. Just people like, "Hey, man, you always seem so happy," or they just have like moments like that where it's just like I kind of always turn do you really want to know? I mean, I'm
Right.
You know what I'm going to tell you? Yeah, you're probably going to tell me the Jesus stuff, right? Yeah, it's the truth. That it's what I know. So yeah.
Yeah, and in the early 2000s, I was really big into like Dave Ramsey, like listening to him on the radio, and he always would answer, "Better than I deserve."
Yeah.
How you doing? Better than I deserve.
No question.
And that kind of like sunk in too, like one of those things that, I don't deserve what I have. I don't deserve the family, the house, the area that I live in. I'm just blessed.
And I feel like I did everything to ruin it.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like we've all made those choices, or like I said, like I'm on the cusp of this, and where sometimes you go that way, but then you're realizing like, I don't know, maybe I was faster to pull the e-brake than you were, but I headed down that road, and I'm like, I got to throw this in reverse because this is not the crowd that I thought I wanted to be with, and. What was fun the one night that we were hanging out, this is a much darker circle than I understood.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that I've always had was like this joy of a big picture, like what is gonna happen, or what do I want to cause to happen through my interactions? What do I want the outcome to be? And I think part of that is just that early decision to be on my own and kind of guide myself, where I looked at some things and I was like, this is not good, even though I wasn't always making the right choices.
It wasn't something wasn't adding up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so your time in Philly, you
Go Birds.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Oh boy. You got your Chiefs red on this, so I'll give you a break.
Phillies.
Tell me about, running around in Philadelphia. You often talk, and you have this sense of pride, obviously, for, and you got some strong roots back there with friends that you're still really close with. In fact, I think some Italian guys, you said that you were some of your best friends, which is great, and could be part of our connection, right? But So tell me, like, what do you think some of the things that you learned in Philadelphia, value wise, that has kind of molded you into maybe some of the route you've taken, especially like with your career, and then at what point was being an educator, was that a passion of yours? When did that come about, and how?
Sure. So a lot of things there, right? So I think the crossover between the Italian culture and the Jewish culture, they're actually very similar. Sebastian Moncallo, the comedian.
Oh yeah,
he's got a great bit where he talks about like
his wife,
and but
he's so funny.
yeah, but just just the whole the family is important. Loyalty was important. Just mind your own business is important. But then there's this intense like pride of where you're from. And then I always had this feeling about family being super important, right? I didn't always get along with my parents, even though like now I realize like what a huge, huge blessing that was to be adopted from India, where, I mean, an orphan in India is just like destined for poverty.
Right.
And that's what I say, where I can look back at that and be like, look at where I live. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. No
and
kidding.
so,
running water.
yeah. But then there was also I had this feeling of family that I think came from my grandparents, where I would bicker with my siblings, but then, I think it was my Nana told me like, but nobody messes with your sister, and, like we could have our squabbles, but then I remember sticking up for her a couple of times, and handling some situations that she, was getting picked on and stuff. And I'm like, you can't do that, So that family part, right? So family, loyalty, hardworking. Philly's a gritty city, where it's a lot of blue collar people. And my dad worked for the shipyards and the Navy base there. And like take your child to work day, you're going on this ship in dry dock, and like
that's cool.
It's different than some other things.
Going to the school.
Yeah. No, I mean, granted, there was the times that we got to go and just sit in his cubicle or whatever, but that was an experience like I'll never forget. Walking through a dry dock ship, like seeing how big it was, and like my dad has a part in this, and that made me really proud of what he was doing, and and you realize like all these little parts are coming together to make this one ship work for the Navy, and the guy painting it, the guy welding, the guy just cooking, and all those things.
So there was a not to get off topic here, but there was a story that I heard. Kennedy went on a tour of NASA, and he stopped to ask. Janitor was sweeping the floor. He said, "Hey, how you doing? What's your job here?" And he looked at him. He said, "Sir, I'm trying to put a man on the moon." And that we use that in leadership often, that anecdote, because it just shows that everyone has a part to play. Whether you're programming the computer that's going to launch the ship, or you're sweeping the floor, it's all part of the bigger picture. And so and I got to go to South Carolina a few weeks ago to speak at a construction site, and I've never actually been on a commercial construction site of that size, in it, and seeing all these guys, and just how it's orchestrated with giant machines running around, and people that can get crushed by these machines, and like every little intricate piece of these, this is the backbone of our country, that's making these. And I kind of had a aha moment, when I told these guys, because I had heard that these Google data centers, that's what they were building, a Google data center. And, it's not just us getting on Google searching for a funny video, I mean, there's people looking for research for cures for cancer, and these data centers give our infrastructure to our world to be able to collect this data, so I made it like, hey, who's over here wiring up this rebar to go in this concrete? Do you realize that rebar is going to go in that ground where there's going to be wires and data traveling across that could save some kid's life one day? And that's like, wow, man, if you really stop and think about the magnitude of just the smallest little things that we do that can't happen if we don't, it's cool. It puts everything in perspective and gives you a whole different level of appreciation for people. And, if you can motivate people by inspiring them to understand that they're not tiring rebar together, they're helping find a cure for
Right.
cancer. It just creates a whole different level of attitude at work, right?
Absolutely.
You come with a different
And
conviction.
pride.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
Pride for the job that you're doing.
Yeah. So
I don't even know if I answered all your
no,
questions.
yeah. So let's go I'll push you along there. So education. At what point
Yeah.
did you decide? Seeing your dad work and all that stuff in the shipyards, and where was the like motivation to teach and be part of something like that? Education.
My mom was a teacher. She taught kindergarten. Then, when had the kids, she stayed home and then subbed a little bit. But ultimately, I've always enjoyed working with kids. When I was a kid, I would go down to the Y and I would work. One of my jobs was I would throw parties for kids. Like now they have like Above All, and
Yeah.
stuff. But it used to be like you'd take them to the pool and then go eat cake and open presents. And
Yeah.
I was the dude that ran that for them.
That's cool.
And so I always enjoyed working, and I worked at camps and stuff. And, just kids are sponges, right? So you can tell them things and they just absorb it. And so I've got a management degree before, and that's what I was doing in South Carolina. And, but after 9/11, I realized that like the hospitality industry and just making money wasn't the most important thing. When I was in college, I had the goal of being a millionaire at 40. I'm not, but
But you're not 40 or you're not a millionaire.
either.
So
I'm more than 40 and less than a millionaire. But my shift changed, and I like to say that my walk with Christ directly paralleled my change in my career. And so it was right around 2000, 9/11 happened. And then around 2002, I decided to go into education. And so just the idea of that I could be a lot of people talk about your why. And my why was to be a positive male influence in the life of young children. And so I was aware that there's a lot of kids that don't have a dad at home. There's a lot of kids that have a dad at home, but may not like have that loving connection. They may not feel safe all the time. And that was something that I wanted to provide for kids. And so education also, kind of provided me the opportunity, because I knew that I loved being a leader, and I could see potentially becoming an administrator one day.
Which you are now.
Which I am now.
Yeah. What school are you at?
I'm at Prairie Point in Park Hill.
Okay.
So
Is that considered a Kansas City, Missouri school district, or what is Park Hill its own school district?
Park Hill is unique in that it is not on a map. So it's many cities kind of and multiple counties actually.
Yeah.
All in one district.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, my school is in Kansas City address, but there's also like Platte County in part of the district. So
Got it. Okay. And so your principal role is new this year. This is your first year as a principal, right?
And so again, like my why just expands, right?
growing,
So when I had a classroom, I saw I was able to influence 20 to 28, 29 kids a year. And then
So I think what's really cool here is, and if I'm hearing you right, teaching necessarily wasn't your passion. Teaching is the vehicle you're using for your passion, which is pouring into kids from a male perspective and being a positive male influence. And you just have, it's funny. I oftentimes I kind of like scratch my head, 28 years I've been in the car business, and I'm like, man, there's so much more to life. I should be out, preaching and, doing, and my wife's like, how often do you get to actually, share Jesus with the employees of the car dealership and customers? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, so, you're not selling cars,
right.
That's just no pun intended. That's just the vehicle
no, you're right.
So
the platform or the vehicle, like I do love to teach, because I love to see that like spark of knowledge, the light bulb go on for kids.
Yeah.
I feel like my experiences and my interests connect differently than, let's say, other teachers, where I can bring sports analogies. I can bring my background. I can bring my travels and my management experience into things, and just connect with people. But I think you're right in that, using a platform that you're passionate about. So I love educating people. I love sports. I love coaching, and all of that I could do through education. But like a lot of people talk about going to serve, and I got to go to Uganda or something like that, but you don't. There's opportunities in your backyard where, get into a school, get onto a team, get onto a business, and, just share your faith and be authentic as to who you are. And people are going to see it, and you're going to have the opportunity to share. And you can share things kind of like in a, in the education system, it's a little different because, you could just talk about Jesus, with an employee. Me talking to a student about Jesus is probably not going to go very well in the public schools.
Can get taboo, right?
Yeah.
Really quick, yeah, unfortunately.
But then there's other ways. So like there's some really great books that kind of tell, the story of Jesus.
Well, what's really cool, and I think that if we just continue leading and being bold with our faith as to whatever limit you can, and then watching, I just met Coach Lacey, Jeff Lacey. Do you know Jeff? Mm-hmm. I just met him at the gym the other day, and his son JoJo is like being very instrumental in growing the First Priority program at DMS. He just sent me a picture. There's 20 kids now meeting, for First Priorities, and that's right in our public school system, right in our community, right. And it's like makes my heart so warm that there is a movement of God and Jesus right here in our own community, which is great, and it's right in our public schools, and it's not ramming it in anybody's face. It's the kids. It's the kids that are doing it. So we always talk about like kids. There's an authenticity and a truth that kids have. Have like childlike faith, right? We talk about that all the time, and childlike trust. And so I think some adults should probably listen and look at what these kids are doing. They're onto something.
When I was at Heritage, there was a Fellowship of Christian Eagles, FCE, they called it.
Sure they did.
Yeah, and so
you just threw that in.
No, because Liberty North Eagles.
Got it.
But then, like you said, it's his son, so it was student led through a lot of the athletes, wanting to share their faith and kind of be bold about it, and just get that experience. And so for me, it was neat, watching these kids who are in their early teens, the time that I decided to walk away, be bold and
pressing in,
try to get other people to come with them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's also interesting because, although as a sponsor and a teacher there, I could attend, I wasn't really saying anything. I'm there to make sure everyone's safe and, the message doesn't go off the rails or anything. But it was also neat because it's a way of showing I'm a Christian to these students that I may or may not have in class. And then for them also to look around and see these are kids who are professing their faith that I may or may not know on a personal level in the school. And so they're building that connection. And then, who knows where that will, spread out to in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool, man.
So it's good to hear it's happening at all the schools.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah. And I know Aniela, she does First Priorities at Liberty at the high school. And, I'm excited for Tony to get into middle school next year, and he'll hook up with Jeff's son. And we get to start Switch next year too. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
Get him involved in the youth program. Aniela's been going to your guys' church. You go to PB, right?
Pleasant Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. She's been doing the youth program there with Heather Mass and those guys. So that's great. Okay. So let's talk about your family dynamics a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your family. So I know you're married, but tell the listeners what your family looks like.
Got an amazing wife, Laura. She's an educator as well. She teaches PE at Liberty North.
She's still coaching
soccer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And she was she was part of the first varsity Bearcat soccer team. They were a club her first year, and then they became a varsity sport, collegiate soccer player there. So
at Northwest,
at the Northwest. So the Bearcats are big in our life, and
you know what? To be fair to your marriage, how did you guys meet? Let's start there. How did you guys meet? Where'd you guys meet?
Yeah. We met back in Hilton Head. I literally was hanging out, watching people move in, and I saw her. So she did an internship down there, and so her apartment had a couple of interns in it. And as they moved in, it was kind of like
What year was this you guys met?
maybe
Ish.
99, 2000, probably 2000,
Okay.
2001, maybe. Yeah. So, and like I said, I was hanging out, having a great time, living my own life, going out, doing whatever, and looking for people to do that with me. And she, a little bit more of a, let's hang out at the pool. Let's
Chill.
hang out in the apartment and watch a movie, or let's not go to the bars every night. And so that was good. I needed that in my life, and I had this feeling where I needed that, and that's where that comment came from before. I was looking for the party girl, and God brought me a Baptist from the Midwest.
Yeah.
He knew I needed to calm myself down, and
You needed
he
a
provided
neck.
that.
You needed a neck.
Yeah, I was just running around. But then, it was an interesting time, because then 9/11 happened, and I told you I had that revelation that there's more to life than making money and just running around. And I knew that she was someone special. Like, we hadn't, for her, it took her a long time to like do the boyfriend girlfriend thing.
She didn't think you were as special.
I guess not. She was a little leery, understandably so. But then my parents had divorced in the late 90s, and my dad lived in Florida, and I had looked at going to Florida Atlantic for education. So I went up to some soccer games and watched Laura at Northwest, and I applied there and got in. And I was like, if I'm going to make this work, it's going to be a lot easier being on the same campus than her in Northwest Missouri and me in Southern Florida. And so,
Are you guys the same age, same exact age, pretty much?
oh no, she's almost 4 years younger. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So did you go back to school then?
yep,
Is that
yep.
that?
Education's a second profession. I have a management degree from Lock Haven in Pennsylvania, and then I have the education.
I mean, this girl
degree.
got you to church. She got you back
Yeah.
in school.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you no wonder you're
Yeah.
in love with her.
Yeah.
You owe her everything.
That's right. I owe her my kids, so we'll move on to that. So we've got 2 kids, Ben and Sienna, and this is where I met you, I believe. And it was because Sienna, when we moved in, Ben was about 18 months, and Sienna was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4. And so they went to Shoal Creek together, and I was teaching in Kearney, and my principal was awesome and said, hey, come in late, because it's like you never get that first day of dropping your kids off at school. And it was like a cool deal. And so Laura and I had walked down to school with Sienna, and Sienna and Aniela, like, they look like they could be twins.
I know we
sisters.
could accidentally walk off with one.
Yeah.
And, oh,
Yeah.
this one's yours. That one's mine.
They could be twins. I mean, just especially when they were little, and
Even more now.
Yeah, now they do on the soccer field. Except mine wears the highlighter uniform, easy to pick out. But you were like, hey, you don't have to walk back. Like, just hop in the golf cart. And we rode your.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a fancy golf cart, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to get to work faster this way. So.
Yeah.
And then we would do these things where, again, family. I'm not from here, so getting the kids' families together at holidays and stuff, and Dominique would come, and I think you came once or twice, and just over to the house and just to get to know each other and stuff like that. And the backyard crew would hang out, and then Ben's all about soccer, and that's been great for us, and we've crossed paths through that venue for both kids through the years, and and so it's been a neat ride. My family's super important. Unfortunately, I lost my mom this year.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
But that's been a really bold kind of way where, like, I know that she's, not in pain, and that's through my walk that I'm able to, like, lean on that. And it's something that I've also been more aware of. People that go through loss that are not believers, man, this is why they're struggling. This is why they're seeking, a bottle or a pill or, whatever. They're lost and they need someone or something in their life. It's something that I've garnered from that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So let's talk about your education philosophy. Being an educator at an elementary school probably certainly presents a different set of challenges than, say, if you were at a high school, right? And so, how do you? And you kind of touched on this, but is there anything that you do? Subliminally, kind of seems like it's a negative. But is there anything that you do subliminally, calculated to make sure that you're being bold with your faith as you work, and do you wear a necklace with a cross hanging out? You know what I mean? Just any like, is there anything that you do with some level of intention that's not invasive, but says, "Hey, I'm a Christian," and that way, gives the kids, if they ever did need to talk, or even a parent, an avenue, an opening there if they needed to feel comfortable talking to somebody about that.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things I do. One is more recent in this leadership position. I listen to other podcasts, not just yours. But and I get so much, across the social media. But this one that's really kind of rooted in my brain right now is you walk into every room as if God sent you because he did. And you're there for a purpose. And it's his purpose.
That's
and
so good.
So I intentionally think about that when I'm walking through the halls. It's not something that I share, but then it's something that I'm projecting or people can see on me.
That's great.
And then when you ask about how do I show it outwardly, like I do the bracelet thing, just like, you've got your Stronger Leader bracelets. I've got a student that I lost, and I mean, it's been several years, but this bracelet keeps hanging on, and it's kind of amazing because, they're silicone bracelets, right? And, the other ones have snapped and broken, and this one hasn't. And there's a cross around his name. And then this other one was given to me by Coach Dowden, who coaches swim and coached volleyball, teaches at HMS. And we were having this discussion about how we get to this point where we've got so many graduation parties to go to. Like, what do you do? And I used to.
How do you do that?
Oh,
I'm sure kids invite you too, right?
Yeah. And so there's times where it's like, I've really kept up with this family and I'll go. And then I used to do this thing where I would get them a $5 or $10 Walmart gift card, hey, buy some snacks and just, enjoy them on me, you know? But then that starts to add up, right?
Yeah. I'd say.
And so then she told me about this cross bracelet, and she's like, they're a couple dollars, but because I forget what brand, but they're pretty nice and they last a long time. But it's a great way to just share your faith and, hey, this is a part of who I am. They can choose to wear it or not. I don't know how they're spending the $10 either. So,
that's right. Yeah.
So, that's been something that I've kind of adopted that she's done, and I wear one, and I've given them to my kids. And we've also got the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets that we have at the house that if we go somewhere we can give to people. But I'm not a big tattoo guy or anything, but I just try and live it and then show it. It's on my wrist. Things like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Okay, so switch gears a little bit with education into coaching. So do you do any coaching within the school system, or is the coaching you do outside private?
Yeah, it's all been private. It's all been through.
Have you ever been a coach in the schools at all?
No.
Okay.
No. So it's started out as Parks and Rec, and we, I guess, Upward actually. No. What was the one over at the school? I-9.
Oh, I-9. Yeah, I-9. Yeah.
That's great for if you want to get your kid off the couch. But my kid is way too competitive for I-9. I mean, I had to carry him off the field one time. And, but just the ability again to pour into kids. And I like to say that I learned as much from them as I hopefully taught them.
I was just telling somebody the other day about Switch, and I said, man, I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes I go, and I'm the only one that gets anything out of it. I think the kids minister to me sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Well, and that's being open, right? We have to be open to learning, and not just like, I have this knowledge and it's my job to spew it out like a fire hose. It's a straw. A straw works both ways, where, something comes up and something, what you don't drink goes back down into the cup. And so we have to be that way. We have to be able to absorb, and we have to be able to put out.
I love that analogy. I've never heard of that.
Oh, I just made it up.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, that's freaking awesome. That's great. Even though it's backwash that goes down in there,
Well,
but it doesn't matter.
still yours.
It's still yours, yeah. That's great.
But I think, when you talk about coaching kids, it's another platform, right? So we talked about you in cars, me in education. But it's another opportunity where, so we ended up starting our own soccer club, Liberty FC, and the boys' club was the Legends, the girls were the Lightning. And so with the boys, I used that legend mentality a lot. I said, to several times to them that one thing is for sure, that you're going to be a father, you're going to be a husband, you're going to be a son, you're going to be a coworker. I'm not sure that you're all going to do soccer for the rest of your life.
That's right.
So those areas, I need to make sure that you're a legend at. Those are the ones. You got to be good. You got to be honest. You got to be, and you're able to put all these Christian values. You got to have good sportsmanship. We didn't ever talk. One player said, "Hey, coach, I thought about it. You're the only one to ever get a yellow card." And I said, "That's right. That's my job. That's my role. I don't want you getting in a fight on the field. I don't want you to
Sometimes my example is what not to do."
Right. But I think it's always important when you're pouring into kids that you're able to use the things that are important to you and those values. Sportsmanship. I mean, sales are always like, did you play sports?
Oh, yeah. I love
people that understand a team.
We look at D1 athlete. It doesn't have to be D1, but I look at collegiate athletes when they apply. I'm like,
Yeah.
college athletics is another level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if they have that kind of commitment to what it takes to play any sport in college, it usually translates.
Sure.
It usually does. Not always, but it usually does.
Sure. The organization, the time management, the dedication, the being on time, commitment to doing this. It's not just a practice.
Teamwork.
You got to do stuff outside of practice. I was able to start to pour into the kids, as they got older. And, when you're 7, now there's like clubs and stuff. But I felt when like my kids were at the younger age, they were just doing it on, Saturday morning. And then we'd practice once or twice during the week. But once we got into that club level and you start going more and more, you can pour even more into them.
Oh, yeah.
Pour into them about the nutrition, about the importance of sleep, about the importance of, hey, it's hot out. Or, hey, you're going to school and we got a game at 8:00 on a Friday night. When you're 10, 11, that's a late game. They're tired after that full week. And so we got to get to bed earlier. And look, I'm cutting practice on Thursday because we're playing on Friday. Because we got to condition our body and take care of ourselves. Just like, the Bible says, our body's a temple. My temple's bigger than yours, but,
So I got to know then, I didn't realize it. So when you said we started the club, who all is running this club? Is it
my wife and I?
You and Laura. So
Yeah.
it's literally you guys.
So we just started the club for our kids. So what was happening was we were in the Parks and Rec world and we were going up and not being challenged. And we had a core of, most of the kids that would play the same. And we would gladly take other kids that, signed up through Parks and Rec, but, through them, we poured into them and we helped them. We had this unfortunate situation where And this only happens, where a dad came up to me in the middle of the game, and he's like, "Hey, if this kid's not, performing well at practice or whatever or during the game, like, I got some terrible news this week." And so, he ended up having stage 4 cancer and passing away. But
The dad did?
yeah. But like, I thought it was so terrible that he came to me. Like, the timing was terrible. At the moment, I'm like, why are you bothering me with this right now? Like, I'm trying to coach the kids. But like, the message was important, and it like sat at me. And then through that, I was able to use the faith and like, our team platform to like do some cool things for that family. And so, hopefully building memories and things that the family can hold on to. Because I remember praying and like being in my chair praying and thinking, this family doesn't need another Domino's card.
Yeah.
What do they really need? They need an experience. They need memories, pictures, that they'll hold on to a lot longer than another pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, it gives you that platform again. The sports really kind of opens up where you can share your faith. But back to the club then. So we moved past, and we were like, we got to be challenged on a weekly basis in order to get better. And that's a biblical principle. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay not winning all the time, but I want my kids to be challenged so that they realize that there's a level that they can get to.
Yeah. And adversity is a big lesson. Huge
Absolutely.
lesson. Yeah.
And like teaching them grit, teaching them how to deal with failure, teaching them how to, you get punched in the mouth, and, it's easy to, when this is a whole nother deal. So in college, I did collegiate boxing, and our coach said, your first win is getting into the ring, because it's really easy to go to training and, the guy that you're sparring with, or it's easy to hit a bag that doesn't hit you back. But when you walk down that aisle and you're going up those 4 stairs on your own and through those ropes, it's you. Like,
we always, we say you're doing more than 99% of the other people would do.
Yeah.
Just at that.
And he says there's people that quit, like walking down, like, I can't do this. They freeze, the anxiety or whatever.
I was just telling a story yesterday about a guy I used to train with. He was a professional MMA fighter, and he was pretty good too. And every one of his fights, we had to take a little small trash can up there, because literally right before they would call his name, he would puke in the trash can every single time.
Yep.
100%. And he was good.
Yeah.
He was a college wrestler and everything. It was so funny. Like, oh, here he comes. Oh, everybody just turned their head.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
But then just like teaching kids that whole, like, how do I handle that? How do I handle it when I am on my own, or when I've gotten just beaten down, through sports? And, when you have that platform of sports to pour into youth, and again, with some biblical background to it, and some parents notice the difference. They notice how you're coaching. They notice how you're talking to the kids. They notice how the kids are responding. They notice that their kid's not jawing back, and cursing on the field, because they know that I wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah, right. And
they know that that's an expectation of being on our squad.
So, man, that is cool. I didn't realize that you guys had started that. So as of right now, is it just the 2 teams? You got the one girls team and the one boys team, or do you have multiple levels, multiple age groups?
This is the first year we're not. Just with my new job, also with the 2 teams, the girls have moved on to high school.
High school, yeah.
And with Sienna being a goalie, being on a club where she can get some more training specific to her. And then with our boys, we ran into, it's when you're a small independent club, it's hard when you lose a couple of players.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it got to, where with the 8th, 9th grade year, or the 8th, so with the years that the way soccer runs, some of our kids were in 9th grade. So boys soccer's in the fall, and then, some are still in 8th grade. And so we lost a couple of kids. We don't have someone from another squad we can bring over. Yeah. With me taking a new job, it was just too much for me to kind of keep going. So that's a part that I miss, but, I really feel like I've left them with that solid foundation that they can build on.
That's great. When I interview people, one of the things that I talk about all the time, as a child, we're taught, when you go over to people's houses, you pick up after yourself and leave things better than the way you found them, right? And so I always tell everybody in an interview, I don't know if we're going to end up working together for the rest of our careers. It'd be cool,
Mm-hmm.
but if not, then my real goal is to make sure that you leave here a better functioning member of life, whether you're a better husband, wife, whatever. I want to do something that leaves a lasting impression on you that makes you better than the way I found you, whether you're, a better professional, a better car person, a better, husband, wife, Christian, whatever, wherever I can pour into your life in a way that's just beyond the four walls of these dealerships, then that's my real motivation. And getting to do that, and some people I get to see because they stay with me and work their way up, and I get to be part of their progression of their career. I had one kid when he came with me. He was 19 years old, came from selling phones at T-Mobile, living on the floor of his apartment. I think he was even in his mother's apartment. No bed, no nothing. Now he lives in a luxury apartment. His mom lives with him. It's fully furnished, and I've got to watch this kid do this, and just get to be part of that with him. And another kid that worked for me, which was freaking awesome. I didn't even know this. He's a Marine, okay? And I did know that about him. But the entire first year that he worked for us selling cars, he didn't even own a car. So he had to rely on transportation. And this kid was the first one there every day, last one to leave. And I, later found out he didn't have a car. His ride was early, so he had to get there early, right? So it just was what it was. But never missed a day of work. Always there. Wasn't the best salesman in the world. In fact, that wasn't his jam at all. And we ended up finding another spot for him and moved him through our parts department. Now he's excelling. But ever since he came with me, he was, I don't want to say broken, but he definitely wasn't put together, and he was living with his mom. And fast forward now, he's absolutely thriving in his career. He got baptized. He got married. He's had a kid. I mean, this is all, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's just those little moments that because we choose the obedience to go to work every day and make a difference in people's lives and not just go make money. And when you have money at the root of what it is, if that's your why, it's gonna be rough,
right? And that goes back to that millionaire at 40, right? Yeah. And so I remember, there's been some times where you sit around with the guys and you're talking about stuff, and I've brought that up as a former goal, but like there's not a price value I put on my family and my house and my situation in life right now. So like I feel like I've made more than $1 million.
100%.
My worth is greater than the bank account.
No question.
And it's just a mind flip. But with your guy that you were talking about, I instantly thought about what a great experience that is to share with other people, because he didn't make excuses. Because there's another bus that comes later. Mm-hmm. So he didn't say, I can't get there when you want me because the bus doesn't come until then. He found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And did it probably suck for him because he had to be there early, maybe before you're open, or wait until? I mean, it's inconvenient, but then through persevering through that, look at where he's come.
Well, and it just goes to show too, like when you take life lessons out of every situation and burn it into your head when there's value and substance to it. One of the Marines' core things that they talk about is if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. That's a staple in the Marine. He's a Marine, so it's stuck with him, right? That's all. That's what he knows. You're early, you're on time, and so a lot of coolness comes out of that story for sure. Well, so not coaching are you doing anything with coaching right now then?
This is the first season, and I can't even remember. I actually bought a chair. So
that's good.
Yeah. So
all right. So you're not having to balance that anymore.
I get to enjoy, and that's part of it too, is, realizing the kids are getting older and they're not going to be doing it forever. And I want to be a parent, and I want to watch, Sienna play, and I want to watch Ben play, and just enjoy them enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, that's part of, you said balance, but it's part of the balance, right?
Sure.
Where I don't have to lead everybody all the time. You know, that becomes draining.
Yeah, no,
As a
that's for
leader
sure.
of a car dealership, you know, you can't do it all the time. You got to find something, you know.
I like to
That's-
be led
that's-
sometimes, to
that's
be
where
honest
the
with you.
5 a.m. gym comes in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so tell me about. Let's go back to education for a minute, just school in general. Tell me about some of the challenges that you face, and I think that from what I understand, well, and you're over in a different district, but we've been blessed so far of not having to deal with a lot of the. I don't want to get real wildly off topic here politically, but let's just call it what it was, woke. Some of the really far out, ideas like, putting a litter box,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that. So I don't. Have you been faced with any of those challenges yet with any of the schools you've been in?
No, not to that extent. You know, Park Hill's very. I really like the inclusivity, and you know, I think Liberty has the same belief. It's where everybody belongs. You know,
Sure.
you want kids to feel safe in school. You want kids to kind of be who they are. They're not trying to push like their agenda on someone, but it's like, hey, there are different people that look different than you, people that come from a different household than you, people that have, you know, a different socioeconomic than you, but everything they do has value. And you know, I saw that in Liberty as well, especially at Heritage, where you know, the middle school is a very challenging time for kids
Yeah.
figuring out who
Yeah.
who they
That
are,
transition,
and,
yeah.
and where they fit, and they're going from having I call it like it's nice to have this like, you know, the one class community, or maybe two if you're, you know, switching teachers, you know, for subjects. But you go to the middle school and you're into the real world, like it's, you know, high school mentality of I got a teacher for English, math, science, and on and on.
Yeah.
And so I don't I have the opportunity to build more relationships, but there's also the opportunity to get lost and fall through the cracks. And so I think both districts are doing a great job at trying to like close those cracks so the kids don't get lost, and so that they feel valued, and that, so, you know, my opinion matters, and or I have at least the ability to speak my opinion. And then it all also comes back to that church. Hey, you've been gone from my class for a couple days now. You all right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to pry into like your family situation. If you want to talk about it, I've just asked, are you all right?
Yeah.
You know, hey, notice you're not doing as well on this subject. You know, can I help you? You know, and sometimes it's like the opportunity presents itself where a kid will talk about some things, but I don't have anything that far left of, you know, the litter boxes,
Yeah,
and things
right.
like that.
Right, that's good.
I mean, if a kid wants to wear a headband with cat ears on it, wear a headband with cat ears. I wear a shirt with a bird. So, you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right. That is kind of weird. The shirt with the bird
oh
part.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's just like, you know, it's how we identify, and it's not weird for, you know, we'll pull it to Kansas City. You know, it's not weird for a kid to walk around with a Royals hat on, but you know, if a kid wants to, if that's what you like, then that's what makes you happy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
there's kids that
it's
wear
hissing and meowing and peeing in a litter box is where I kind of get a little. That's where it's got to stop.
That's a little different. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so talk about. So I'm curious to know, from an administrative standpoint, how if they do, how does your bosses, so to speak, what's the rule? Is there an unspoken etiquette in public schools? We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. Is it an actual spoken rule? We don't talk about religion. I don't. I'm not privy. And can you go into that at all? If not, that's fine. We can move on. But
Yeah, I would think it's probably more of like the unspoken, right? So
it's just
I mean,
etiquette.
yeah, so like this is more through working with adults. You know, you can kind of tell which way
Right.
somebody leans.
Sure.
And I tend to avoid the butting of heads. You know, where I think it's fine to listen to people, and if you're willing to have a conversation, we can have a conversation about something. But you know, there's people that feel really, really strongly, and how I feel or how they feel politically or about a social issue or about something else, really I look at it as we're there to do a job. And so like we can separate those two things. And so like when I go in and I look at a teacher that's teaching a kindergarten classroom or a fifth grade classroom, I'm looking at the job they're doing, not the, you know, the bracelets they're wearing or things like that.
What does I'm just curious now that you're the principal, what's that conversation look like if you've got a teacher that's starting to push those boundaries and you can kind of see, you know, that their agenda is starting to get pushed? And if you haven't had that experience, like what does that look like? Is it a basic like sit down reprimand or you know, I wouldn't say reprimand, but a
Conversation for sure, right? Yeah, no, I haven't had those situations.
You haven't yet?
No,
probably not in an elementary school. I doubt it would be too
right,
much, but
right. So there was an interesting situation that I, as a parent, Ben, you know, told me about this year. He had to write out like who he was, and then one of the things was like, "What are your pronouns?" And then I said, "Well, what did you put?" He goes, "Well, I put he, him, but I didn't really know like what that meant." And so, you know, Laura and I had a conversation then, like, well, it's different now in that it's probably introduced as more just not to offend someone else. But like we as parents haven't really had that discussion, you know, and what is the right time. So I just told him that was right, but you can also put like, I choose not to answer that if you don't want to, you know? And so, but from a teacher pushing an agenda, I think you're right. Like at an elementary level, I haven't seen it. Not to say it doesn't happen. But I mean, we're also in Missouri as opposed to.
Yeah. And I think, man, if you're teaching elementary and you're using that then you're kind of a turd. And there's deeper rooted issues if you're spilling off your political agendas on an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
you got other problems.
I mean, I think there's like if you're let's say if you were a gay teacher, you know, and just letting your class know like I have a partner who is a guy or a gal, whatever, you know, gender that teacher was. I mean, that's different than you know, pushing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just awareness.
Yeah. Gotcha. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. You know, I, without naming, I was asking a gay friend of mine the other day, about, you know, what the views were on transgender. And this person said, I think it's weird. She not going to believe it, but I think there's males and females. And I was like, yeah. So it was kind of funny, but you know, I think that's taboo too, right? Some people don't want to, we classify. That's just a great example of how we classify. If you're not straight and you're not a male or a female and then you're one of these, the alphabet classification, the LGBT, you know, all of that, which is unfair, right? Because here I've got a person who's gay that actually doesn't agree with, you know, probably 80% of the rest of the agenda of that alphabet category, you know, but in an unfair shake, society's going to just group this person right in with that other group because that's what we tend to do. And that's why, you know, I don't like I don't like the political parties personally. I don't vote. I never have. And there's a whole other reason behind that. That's a whole podcast in itself. And that has to do with my felon background. But it's been reinstated. I can vote. I just choose not to for other reasons. But, you know, I always tell everybody the reason why I hate those, because when you start classifying people, that's when you lose the relationship, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I don't really care what your political agenda is. I care what your heart is. Where's your heart at, right? Because I know there are some stone cold Republicans, conservative people that believe the same way that I do in every sense of the word, and I wouldn't let them take my trash out, you know.
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing, but you know, I'm just
Right.
I wouldn't go near them, right?
Right.
Then I have some other Democrats who are hardcore liberals and firm and staunch in their that I don't agree with at all. but have a great heart that I just adore and I love them because they're good people. They just stand for what they stand for.
Right.
And if, as a society, if we can learn how to bridge the gap relationally, you can learn to accept their, you can sit and talk and be like, hey, I love you, and I think your views are absolutely stupid,
Yeah.
And they're like, I love you too, and your views are stupid too. Like, great, we hug, and and that's what good relationship. And I think that's the spirit of our democracy, that two people can coexist in the same space and absolutely love each other, as friends and as Christians or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
and not be moved to any extreme of hate or anything, because of it. And so that if we could get that part right, then I think the agendas, I think people might be open, because I'm going to tell you, there are sides to. I just learned the other day, one of the people that I'm closest with in life every day just found out that she's a Democrat. I literally had zero idea.
Right.
And this is like literally one of my best friends, that I talk with
Yeah.
multiple times a day. And we were talking, and she goes, I'm a Democrat. I go, what? Like, no way.
Right.
And it's because there are elements of her belief system that, steer you to believe Republican, and, not as much Democrat, but registered Democrat. Right. And it's like, man, that hit me upside the head. Like, this is a great example of how two people can absolutely have each other's back, adore each other, and completely have opposing viewpoints and political stuff, right? And so, man, I think that relational piece and the heart, and getting literally to the heart of it, then that opens your mind up. If I love you and I trust you, then what your belief system is, I may be open to actually learning a new truth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's yeah. Anyway, I got off on a rant there.
No, but I think you're right on. Like, one, it doesn't matter what her political view is, because you took the time to know her before that was an issue.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And it doesn't change.
And now it won't be an issue.
Right. It just doesn't change your image of who she is. It's just something else that you know about her.
It actually enhanced it, if I'm being honest, because now I know people can be completely different and still have that deep of a relationship,
Yeah.
Such a great lesson.
I think that people have lost the art of questioning. And so
it's called accusing is what
right.
we do now.
Or it's just, I have this belief and I feel the need to press it into you so much that I'm right. And, there's more. And I mean, with the internet so the internet's a whole nother thing, but there's more and more information more readily available than ever before in our life. Right. So what I was saying with the internet is not only that, but like, now I can find other people that believe what I believe that aren't necessarily in my community. And so that just furthers my belief that I'm right. I don't have this ongoing dialogue with people that have maybe a different belief. And so I don't have the opportunity to ask questions and find out why they believe that. So and again, if we pull this back to spiritualness, right? Jesus asked questions. Who do they say I am? And then it's also like, it's hard to shine a light to people that already have a light.
Mm-hmm.
If I only hang out with Christian people, I'm not discipling to anybody.
That's right.
And if I'm hanging out with, in a dark world of people, and dark world is probably the wrong way, but
I know what you're saying.
The darkness, people that are just don't know Jesus, then I can shine that light. And my light shines for who I am and for what my beliefs are. And we talked earlier, I'm not the guy on the milk crate. I'm the guy that wants to, let's have a coffee. Let's sit down and talk. Like, what's going on? What led you to this point in your life? Like I said, if people call and they're like, what's different about you? Well, what got you to where you're at that you're asking that question? And then shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Let those people talk and listen to people. And then this is what I'm doing. And I like to say, like, you're not hurting me if you choose not to follow. It's hurting you.
Right.
If you choose not to change your life, if you choose to continue to, drink and do drugs, or, if you choose to not work, or if you choose to, whatever it is that's the struggle that you're doing, and you asked and I told and you choose not to do, that's on you.
Right.
We can plant the seed and we don't always see the outcome, but we're trying to plant the seed. We're trying to let you know that this is an opportunity where you could change your life.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great stuff. Going to be respectful of your time here. I know you got to get going. So a couple more questions. So tell me, what's your future look like? We got some aspirations, how many more years of teaching do you plan? All that. Give me a synopsis of what you're.
Well, I jokingly say I hang around for 10 years per district. So I did 10 in Kearney, 10 in Liberty. And I told Park Hill, looks like you got me for the next 10. So, but honestly, I'm really enjoying my current job. Again, just being open to learning. I did not walk into this administration role like I'm ready to cannonball into this pool and change things. It's definitely wading in, like learning things. There's always new things to learn. And so not only that, but I also enjoy pouring into teachers. I have 20 years of teaching experience, and being a resource for them, and being able to, they come with a situation and how can I help you? And I always ask that on my walk-arounds. I do a walk-around into every classroom every morning, and I say, good morning. And, because it's elementary, I got a lot of, good morning, Mr. Sorens. And it's great. It makes me happy. And, have a great day. And, if it's a sub, I'm like, be sure to let us know if there's something we can do. Or, when a teacher comes to you, I say, how can I help? Like, that's my role. And so, I'm really enjoying that, because I not only get to pour into the 20 to 28 kids that I once had in a classroom, but now I've got 83 adults that I can pour into.
That's awesome.
I've got 460 some kids that are just there. And I'll tell you what, elementary is a different beast in that, the kids are so little, but it's really neat because most of them still have that love for education.
Yeah.
And my goal is to make them smile, make them love coming to school, to make school a welcoming, fun, friendly, safe environment for them. And we're already doing that in my first year. And so I definitely see that as, at least for my near future, where I'll be.
Good.
Yeah.
So you feel like you've made an impact this year already?
Oh yeah. It's been great.
That's great. How about teachers? The teachers take to you well? I can't imagine nobody not liking you, John.
So it's one of those things that you just have to be intentional about, and I would probably relate it to, I think maybe when I retired, maybe I'd be a good car salesman, but it's building that relationship, right? So you got to build the relationship quickly.
If you ever do the car thing, I know a guy.
A guy. It's good to have a guy.
Yeah. That's an Italian roots in you, buddy.
But it's the thing that, like when we go and we talk to someone and they don't know as much as we do, all we did was internet search.
Yeah.
Like if you can't do that minimal part to your job, we're not going to build a relationship, and so like in education, it's like, you're a good teacher. You were hired to do this job. And so like we have that commonality, I can help you, if you say, hey, just stay out of my room. I like to run my own ship, and, I'll call you if I need you. Like I can respect that, because that's how I was. I like to do my own stuff and try and fix kids before sending them to the office.
Yeah.
And so if that's what you want, then we have that relationship where you can tell me that. And then there's teachers who are like, the kids love having you come in and, come do this morning meeting with us, or come do this event or activity. My struggle is that I'm not really good at posting on the social media stuff. And I guess it's like stalking what I do is I just watch it, I just watch it go by. And, but in my new role, I'm trying to tell our story, so I'm trying to be more intentional about capturing fun things that the teachers are doing with kids.
Yeah.
The events, when they get incentives and things like that. So
That's important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
And
you can tell your
when they see
story
you
or someone
doing,
else can.
Yeah, when they see you doing that stuff too, it shows your level of intentionality. That you're capturing that moment because it's meaningful to you, and it probably is to them too. So yeah. That's pretty cool. All right. So anything else? Any topics that you hoped we would get into that maybe we didn't? Covered a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to get into any politic talk at all. Yeah. Is there anything you hoped we would get into that we missed? Something you want to share?
I think the important root of our friendship has been faith,
Yep.
family. We both have a strong belief in faith and family, sports,
Yep.
and dedication to stuff. But I want to personally thank you for what you're doing, because you're changing my life. I would spend a lot of time, as I said, doom scrolling through, and when you start to watch a video, your algorithm changes. So I'd watch this guy say, well, if you do this exercise 100 times before you eat breakfast, you're going to have abs that you could, whatever. But I'm also, like I said, I'm a big picture guy, and I see that's not real. And so one of the things that you said on your Stronger podcast, or maybe conversationally, is it's little steps, and August 1, I took that, I had intentionally been wanting to get healthier. I have a new role.
Yeah.
I'm getting older. I'm not 40.
Yeah.
I'm not a millionaire.
Right.
So I wanted to, start making some changes. And so for years, I've looked at you, and you've been very upfront about, your walk, both, spiritually, but also your physical fitness walk. And, I looked at 5 o'clock as if it was there were times where I was going to bed at 5.
Yeah.
Not recently, but, back
Yeah.
in the day.
Oh yeah.
And
Well
I'm
aware.
like-
Yeah.
I'm like,
been there.
I don't know if I can get up at 5, but I just set the alarm in August 1, and I just changed it. And so every morning I've been getting up and walking, and to me, it's making manageable change. Right. And so it's not, I don't have to be Tony Cardello and go to the gym and lift weights and, bend bars and things like that. But doing something that's intentional, and it's making me healthier, and I have accountability because I text you and it. And then the best thing you told me was sleep in Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not on a podcast.
Yeah.
But that was great, because man, you need to let yourself we
Give
talked
yourself
about.
permission to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so, you're changing my life. And I know that this medium, or whether it's going to talk to the high school kids, the youth, hopefully we're able to impact, just future generations, and the whole ripple effect, where God can take, an orphan from India, and, Tony Cardello,
Drug addict from the streets.
we'll get into that, on another podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, just he could take anyone.
Yeah.
And it's really that ripple, the concentric circles of influence, where, you've got your immediate family, your people that you talk to regularly. Then you've got the next one, which are the teachers, the coworkers, the other sports parents that you run into, fairly regular basis. And as that goes out, but then if you're influencing those further circles, they're going to start to have their own ripples. And so just keep doing what you're doing. I know it's not easy. I know you already got kicked out of your first
Podcast
studio. Although I knew,
before I even got started.
I knew when I saw the picture that was not going to last. But I liked that you set it up, and I thought it was fun that you thought that was going to be your studio. It had a great background.
I thought it would be great.
But my prayer is that we're influencing people, and that we're doing what God called us to do, which is go out and spread the word of Jesus Christ, and make an impact, inform people, show them the light. And I thank you for doing that. And thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it, man. Equally, I appreciate you and your friendship. And I started to say something at the beginning. I said I'll save it for later. One of the things that really have drawn me to you in recent years is the fact that my whole story. In fact, you lived through part of it, right? And I could have easily been judged by you because I was very judgeable, in the things that I went through. And, I was 2 houses away from you, up all hours of the night, smoking meth, in our neighborhood, in our community. I brought that evil to our community, and you could have a lot of disdain and a lot of hate, and or at the very least you could just not prefer to speak to me because I did bad things, right? And in fact, you've done the opposite. You've poured into me, into our friendship more than just by being that person and being forgiving, showing me Jesus, right? And
yeah.
I get to see that everywhere, and you're an example of it. So, thank you. I appreciate our friendship more than for sure. And, all of your suggestions with the content as I've been going along, and you sending me clips. That Josh Howerton is a new one that I followed because of you. And me and Dominique were just watching one. I said, do you follow this guy? Like, no, you need to. Yeah. John sent this to me a while back, and but now he's in my algorithm, and yeah. I think he's great, and just, leaders like that. So yeah, man, also keep doing what you're doing, and to connect with you even here deeper and understand a little bit more of your why and really, really get it, it just adds a whole nother layer to your character that's even more special. So yeah, that's cool, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And I pray for you too, that your family is protected, because as we're out here, I'm experiencing it myself, as we're out here doing the Lord's work. I always tell everybody, at this moment in my life, I know that I am highly favored by Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm also highly regarded by the devil. They both want me on their team, and I know that, right? Yeah. And so the devil's team looks on this earth way more fun. It's definitely way more, of the stuff that I would rather be doing, So the choices that I have to make on a daily basis to stay straight and stay obedient, it's a conscious choice, and it ain't easy. But, like I tell everybody with the, weightlifting stuff, if you go to deadlift 400 pounds today, you're not going to be able to do it. But with some time and some effort and some practice and intentionality, you will one day be able to lift that. And because you're able to lift that, it didn't decrease the weight, right? You're still lifting 400 pounds. It's still heavy, right? Still as heavy as the first day you could when you couldn't do it. And that's life, right? And what I try to teach people all the time is that when you walk with the Lord like I do and make the conscious decisions and try to do the advice that I lead by and things, it doesn't make life less hard. It doesn't make life less easier, or less weight. It just makes your ability to withstand it higher, right? Yeah. And your ability to move that weight becomes better. You get stronger, right? Yeah. The life doesn't change. You personally get stronger. So
that's a great one, because everybody's got burdens.
Whether
it's a 400 pound, whether it's a bill, whether it's
Goliath,
it's an illness, whatever.
Yeah.
Just doing your part.
So let's end on a fun note.
Okay.
Speed round. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Favorite sport?
Football.
Go-to movie for family night?
Ooh, family night is hard because.
All right, just go-to movie. What's your movie? Rocky. Oh yeah, heck yeah. Dream vacation spot, whether you've been or not?
Sun in the sand. I love beaches.
There you go.
Yeah.
Favorite childhood memory?
There's a lot of mischievous ones.
All right, what sticks out?
I think the time that we were messing around, my buddy had a truck, and we were going down the shore, and just on the highway, got out through the window and like readjusted all the stuff. Like normal people would pull over to the side, but
yeah. Why do that? That's not fun.
That would have slowed us down.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Hidden talent no one knows?
I have a lot of Eagles and Philly sports information.
Okay, cool. Favorite book or author?
Well, the softball is the Bible. I just read a book that I really liked, but now I can't even think of it. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries.
We'll cut that one out.
Yeah. All good. All right, man. That's it. Man, thanks a ton for being on here. This has been fun. Been a lot of enjoyment for me for sure, and hopefully our listeners get something out of it. I think that we got good deep discussion here. So appreciate it, man.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And that's it for the episode of The Stronger Leader with John Sorens. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you get the notifications, and remember to follow along. See you later. And as always, be good, be blessed, and be stronger.